Hello, beautiful people. Think about what is the best strategy or approach in life? To be good at attacking a certain objective or defending your possession or your assets? What do you think? Well, while you are thinking it, I want to show you where I am today. This is actually an incredible fortress just outside of Torres Vedras, which is a nearby location from where I live. And I'm doing a little check on some of the points we will be passing nearby in an upcoming program on the 27th of December for the year-end program, but also for next year, where we plan to have a week-long program in the lines of Torres. So this is something that we have been exploring already for some time, and little by little I think we have something interesting to share. But at the same time, it's been very interesting to make some reflections, because as we go on our research, we end up actually thinking quite often about what happened here. I mean, maybe you are not so much aware of this piece of history. I mean, it happened more than 200 years ago. But this whole location, which by the way was a series of lines of defense built up between, or let's say a joint effort between Portuguese and the British Army, and basically trying to keep Napoleon troops away from entering the capital of the kingdom in Lisbon. So we are talking about the very beginning of the 19th century, and these are a series of events that start taking place around 1808, 1809, 1810, because there were actually 3 invasions in Portugal. And this is a very interesting location, because not only basically the fortress was actually, we are talking about around 160 fortresses, obviously, from very tiny small ones to bigger ones. Well, where I am right now, it's a pretty big one. Probably around 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers were stationed here. The smaller ones maybe around 200, 300. But we are talking about a massive construction that was done on top of a natural setting. So it was already there. So there was a range of mountains and sierras between the Tagus River and the Atlantic. So we are talking about a distance stretching for around 60 kilometers, more or less, give or take. And there were built 3 lines of defense. Right now I'm standing on the first line of defense. There was a second one, and there was a third one near Lisbon, in case things would go terribly wrong and the British Army could return to UK. And one of the things that struck me the most in the history of the lines of Torres Vedras is actually the role that being able to defend properly end up having a much bigger impact than being good at attacking. Because actually, if you refer back to what was happening, actually the French army, which at the time was pretty much unbeatable, was the one basically able to rush and attack and conquer. And if you go back to 1808 to 1809, actually the Portuguese army and the British army, they were the ones basically trying to improve how to defend, not really attacking anything. And a very interesting lesson from the lines of Torres Vedras is actually about when you are smart enough to build up your defenses, actually, you are already taking the first step to attack properly. And I quite often think about our own lives. You know, sometimes we are so eager, so actually sometimes on a rush to do things, and we don't take enough time actually to think about that before we do it or before we take action. Actually, we should be able to have proper defenses in place. And usually this comes down to the way we think. This comes down to our daily habits, you know, our routines, and not so much, you know, let's say intentional action. I mean, I understand that in the eagerness to make things happen, obviously we want to do things, but if we take the time actually to build our own defenses, we are probably doing a lot more than we think. And actually that's what we learn from this piece of history in Europe, because what actually triggered the victory was not really the capacity to attack. It was, you know, how smart these lines of defense and actually the strategy to hold back something that was definitely at the time much stronger, you know, the French army, and how that actually turned into a winning strategy. So maybe I challenge you actually this coming week, when you think about probably, and by the way, we are approaching the end of the year, so it might be quite interesting to start having this kind of thoughts of, you know, summarizing your year, draw some conclusions of, you know, what went well, what went not so well, what are the highlights of the year, what were the objectives you had in the very beginning of 2020, and now maybe they turn around, because, you know, this is interesting time of the year to do this kind of thinking. But at the same time, think about what are your defenses. What do you have in place that actually can, you know, keep you grounded and extremely solid in, you know, facing adversity. And by the way, I guess we are living a very challenging year, 2020. It's definitely a year to test our capacity to face adversity. Think about maybe your daily habits that keep you grounded, you know, not only in terms of personal life but also your professional life. It's quite often an interesting opportunity to think about your you know, the way you start your days and the way you finish your days. I mean, these two moments usually are very, very important and very insightful, because you know, the way you start your day is when you set up the intention for what you want to do, think, behave. And the way you finish your days actually are a great opportunity to understand the learnings and maybe incorporate something in your next day that will be useful. So that's why probably these are two moments that we don't pay enough attention. Quite often we rush too fast out of bed when we wake up and we start doing things when in fact we should not do that. And quite often we finish our days too tired, too exhausted to do this exercise of revision, which again, it might be something that not play so well in our favor. So here I am in a very inspiring fortress near Torres Vedras, so one of the biggest fortresses, and by the way, still in a very good shape, and maybe giving you this provoking thought. You know, you are about to finish the year, and maybe it's a good time to think about your defenses, which, as we can see from history, can turn out to be the best way to attack something. Well, I hope this video finds you well. Wish you a beautiful, wonderful week ahead, and keep walking with me.